Sounds like someone is selling RVs. The market is crashing, this time lower than 2008, with lots of laugh emojis. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to do one of my favorite videos we do every month, where I get to go through all of the videos I did over the last several weeks and read some of your comments, particularly comments that I'm getting over and over again, something that I didn't explain enough, or some things that are just fun to react to. I'm coming to you from a campground. We're going to a music festival this weekend. I'm out on the sun deck on the Sabre 37 RV miles, though today you could call it a rain deck, which is one of the better purposes for it. I can sit out on this deck and still have an awning over me, but it's been a little drizzly. There's some blasting going on in the background, so if you hear that, that's what that is. But let's just dive right in. First, a few comments from the video I did covering all the new debuts at the Hershey RV show that just took place, and some other news stories. Where were all the people at the show? All the videos I've watched on Hershey, I see hardly any people milling around. So the thing about a couple of the big RV shows, the Florida RV Super Show in Tampa and the Hershey RV show in Hershey, Pennsylvania, these are sort of the big manufacturer-led shows. And they're sort of spearheaded by the industry, where there are big announcements at each of them. They're two of the biggest shows. In fact, they're two of the biggest trade shows in the country. The reason a lot of the YouTube videos you watch don't have a lot of people in the background, it's because these two shows have a media day. So the day before the show opens to the public, they allow folks like us to walk around and see all the units, although sometimes half of them aren't plugged into power yet. There's still some setup going on. It's really interesting, actually, because you can hear some of the manufacturers and the dealer representatives talking to the group of dealers that's going to talk to the public, and you kind of hear some of the sales tactics that are going to happen. But this all happens before it's open to the public, and that allows for us to walk through the RVs and get video and stuff when you're not there, so we're not bugging you. But also, it's very hard to do when there are lots of people in the RVs. Plus, they don't put music on, so we don't get like copyright strikes from YouTube because there's music on in the background, stuff like that. And then I got several comments wanting to know how this show, the Hershey RV show, compares to the Florida RV Super Show in Tampa and the big Quartzsite RV show that happens in January. Both of those shows happen in January, and they are fairly different in certain ways. First of all, Hershey and Tampa, both again manufacturer-led RV shows, both have about the same number of units. Don't be fooled by the fact that Hershey is called America's largest RV show. They're both huge in terms of square footage. Tampa's a little bit bigger in terms of number of units. Hershey maybe ever so slightly bigger. They both show about 1,500 RVs. The mix of products at the two shows is different in my experience. So in Florida, at the Florida RV Super Show in January, you're going to get more motorhomes, more Class A's, more Class B's. Not a ton of Class B's at the Hershey RV show. So the mix is going to skew a little bit more towards trailers at the Hershey RV show. There's a ton of trailers. It's mostly trailers at both shows, but you're going to see more entry-level stuff at the Hershey RV show as well. I suggest if you're really looking to buy, you're looking to do some deep research, and you're really interested in motorhomes, that you're definitely better off going to Florida. If you're looking at trailers, it probably doesn't make a difference which one you go to, but the Florida RV Super Show probably tailors itself a little bit more towards RV buyers who might be on their second RV or their third RV. A lot of people that live in Florida or are in Florida in the winter already own RVs, and they're potentially looking to upgrade, where there might be a little bit more entry-level stuff at the Hershey RV show. And the Quartzsite show in Arizona also takes place at the end of January. It's really not as much of an RV show as sort of a vendor supplier show. And that's a place where lots of people are boondocking for the entirety of the winter. So the vendors have some really cool gadgets and things that are meant for sort of those RV power users oftentimes. There are RVs on display there. It's nothing like these other two shows in terms of showing off RVs. It's a dealer or two. I want to throw one other one at you. If you're interested in small rigs, particularly like truck campers or any of the brands that are sold in the West and the Northeast, like Northwoods Manufacturing, Outdoors RV, Arctic Fox, check out this Seattle RV show. It's a great one as well. Okay, this one from the September 8th news video. One of the stories on that was about diesel prices and where diesel prices are headed. Is some of your content stock video? If so, you might want to look a little closer next time. Around the 240 mark, I noticed the fuel cap door said unleaded fuel only, but nozzle was green, indicating diesel. Yeah, I use a lot of stock video. If you notice in this video, there's a lot of jump cuts because all my other videos are scripted. So I script them, I put them on the teleprompter, and I read them. And when I make a mistake, I cover it up with footage. In a video like this, where I don't have a teleprompter, I make lots of mistakes. I make lots of cuts. It's just too much to cover. So you're going to see my head pop around with a jump cut every now and then. But yeah, good catch. One thing I do want to point out to you though, green handle does not mean diesel. That is a very common mistake. And a lot of people have put gasoline into their diesel truck thinking green handle means diesel. There is no standard for handles. I know some stations always use green for their E88 fuel. There's no standard. Don't pay attention to the handle color. You need chapters so people can find the clickbait in your thumbnail and you'll get less thumbs down reactions. I assume you're looking for the clickbait that is the story about plague being contracted at a couple campgrounds. I usually do chapters every so often. I just don't have the time to do it, and I've got to get the video out. I just don't have the time to go through and make the listing of chapters I intend to go back to the next day. So I try to do that for you, but I will continue to try to do that. Not so worried about the thumbs down though. That video has a 99.3% like to dislike ratio. And that's pretty much standard. Everything we do is usually 98, 99% plus. No such thing as plague. Are you serious? Plague's totally real. Do people think that plague is like a literary disease or just a generic name for a disease that people contract a lot, like tuberculosis? No, plague is a real disease caused by a specific bacteria. There are a few different types. Bubonic plague might be the one you've heard of the most, but plague's real. And you can get it from fleas from all sorts of animals out there. Prairie dogs, for instance. Prairie dogs, super cute. Prairie dogs have plague. More in a moment, but first, this episode is sponsored by eTrailer. Ever feel like finding the right RV part is like searching for a needle in a haystack? Enter eTrailer.com. Whether you're puzzled about which product is right for you or how to install it, eTrailer has got you covered. Their US-based customer service is available by chat or phone 7 days a week, and with expert Q&As, helpful articles, and tons of reviews and install videos, you'll tackle any RV problem with confidence. eTrailer strives to get their hands on everything they sell, and their website is full of overviews, reviews, buying guides, and tutorials. And it's not just RV parts, it's towing and vehicle accessories, camping supplies, and more. Head to the link in the description and get free shipping on orders over $99. This one from the story about RV manufacturing stuck in neutral. Essentially, the number of RVs being manufactured and sold is just about the same as it was last year. Sounds like someone is selling RVs. The market is crashing, this time lower than 2008, with lots of laugh emojis. Well, first of all, I don't think that me saying that the market is in neutral is me trying to sell RVs. And I'm not. I'm certainly not. I'm trying to help you as a consumer, if you're interested in buying an RV, make the best decision about when to buy an RV. My main goal on this channel is to help consumers make the best decisions with their money. The market is holding pretty steady. The market did crash pretty much in the second half of 2023. RV sales have been fairly flat for any talks of ups and downs since the second half of 2023. 2023 was a rough year after the summer. 2024 was pretty bad. This year is pretty much in line with 2024. Yeah, there was a crash from some pretty historic highs, but we're just kind of in that. We're not diving lower at this point. That potentially could happen, but that's not what the numbers show right now. And it's nothing like 2008. In 2008, in fact, in 2009, really, RV shipments, so the number of RVs manufactured, was about half of what it is now. It was about a fourth of the pandemic highs of like 2022. It was real bad. Lots of brands consolidated. That's why we have all these big conglomerate brands that have lots and lots of manufacturers under their belt. That 2008, 2009 economic turmoil caused a lot of consolidation within the RV industry. And we're just not there yet right now. Could we go there? Sure. It's just not happening right now. Things are just holding steady. Similarly, I did another video on current RV prices and whether this is a good time to buy. And this came from utilizing Camping World, the nation's largest RV dealership chain, their quarterly earnings report, which they're very good at detailing lots of information. And I cover all that in the video about where sales are at. And lots of comments on that video. Essentially, the idea of the video was prices have come down a bit. They're starting to turn up a little bit according to Camping World right now. So maybe now is a good time to buy. Maybe prices are going to go up a bit. Who knows? This is sort of an exchange I had with someone. Your comparison of RVs to cereal boxes makes no sense. They're a completely different commodity. You're comparing a consumable product with several months of shelf life to an RV, which costs 7,500 times more and has a 10 to 20 year life. I like your vlogs, but this time your analogy was way off. It's all about inventory turns. And I said, yes, inventory turns, exactly. Turn means an RV moves out and a new one takes its place. And they responded, but full shelves of cereal boxes and parking lots full of used RVs is a really bad comparison, not even close, to completely different worlds. If you want to be listened to, you need to make sense. You can do better. Just admit it was a bad comparison and move on. Thanks. Look, thanks for your comment. I'm trying to find something that people can relate to. But take your pick. Grand pianos, guitars at Guitar Center, Ford trucks on a Ford dealership's lot. It's all the same thing. Inventory needs to be there for people to buy it. And RV dealers like to have a lot full of inventory. So this is something I get over and over and over again. People say the RV lots are full, dealerships must be doing terrible. They could be doing terrible, but whether the lot is full or not has very little to do with it. They're not full of 12 of the same unit. They're full of all sorts of different floor plans. So when somebody goes there and shops and walks around, they find that perfect thing for them. And the more different floor plans that RV dealership has on their lot, the more different brands, the better chance they have of selling somebody the thing they want. It's the same thing as any business with inventory. Just name the luxury product and that's how it goes. Jewelry. You go to a jewelry store, you don't see 15 items. You see hundreds and hundreds of items. Most people aren't buying those items. For the most part, they're just sitting there until that right person comes along for it. Same thing. Camping World's CEO is pulling Bed Bath & Beyond out of California. Is he going to pull all of his Camping World locations out of California as well? So Marcus Lemonis, the CEO of Camping World Holdings, is also the CEO of Bed Bath & Beyond. And he's an opportunistic guy. So he put out a press release recently saying that the business environment in California is too difficult and he won't be opening any Bed Bath & Beyond stores there. You might know Bed Bath & Beyond doesn't have any stores anywhere. They're looking to open some new stores, but there are no Bed Bath & Beyond stores anywhere. And he made a press release about this. He's just trying to get some sort of national attention, and this is something that he is very good at and often does. Research the Camping World flag controversy. But do I see Camping World pulling out of California? No, there are 30 million people live in California, and California is one of the top 5 states in terms of RV purchases. Camping World is definitely staying in California. They've opened stores recently in California. From everything I've heard, Camping World and its CEO are dishonest. Why would you repeat data from a dishonest company? The thing is, they're the publicly traded company. I mean, there's another publicly traded dealership chain, but really they are the biggest and they have this data that they have to share legally. And they can't lie about it. This data has to be vetted by independent accountants, all sorts of stuff. The sales data that you see in earnings report from publicly traded companies is usually fairly accurate. And when it's not, somebody can go to jail. So I do trust their numbers, in terms of their interpretation of what the numbers mean. That could be a whole different thing. And that's why I try to be very careful. But look, I'm trying to share with you all the information out there, and that's information that's available. If you don't like the source, don't trust the source. That's why I'm telling you who the source is. You won't believe how often I'll share, oh, the New York Times is reporting this, and the Washington Post is reporting this. And people will say, the New York Times is your source? You can't trust anything they say. All I'm reporting is that the New York Times is saying this. You can believe what you want to believe. You can watch the story and see how it develops. I'm not reporting XYZ happened. I'm reporting the New York Times said XYZ happened. I'm not reporting that sales are XYZ. I'm reporting that Camping World says sales are XYZ. And it's up to all of us to interpret that how we will. From the story that I did on Luan plywood that the RV industry uses heavily, I got this comment from several different people in various different ways. Don't they use a lot of Azdel now? Doesn't delaminate like Luan does. So Luan is a thin plywood. Actually can be thick as well, but generally what the RV industry uses is 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch Luan, depending on the use. And it is underneath the fiberglass on the outside of a lot of RVs. It is what the fiberglass is laminated to. It is on the inside wall surfaces as well in a lot of RVs. So in recent years, a lot of RV manufacturers have moved to Azdel. Azdel is a composite material that doesn't delaminate as easily and is impervious to water. So the story was about how the RV industry is using a ton of Luan. They're the biggest user of Luan plywood in the world, according to the story. And some of that plywood is not ethically sourced, and that's what the story was about. So yes, a lot of companies have moved to Azdel, but they're not necessarily using it everywhere. So you may just see Azdel on the outside of the unit where the fiberglass is, and the interior walls might be all Luan. Flooring as well. A lot of companies use Luan in the flooring and the ceiling. Some companies are entirely Azdel, but I've learned a lot about Azdel recently. I actually had a long talk with a manufacturer in Hershey about Azdel, and there are a lot of manufacturers that will use Azdel on walls that have no holes in them inside the RV, but the walls that do have cuts and holes will be Luan. There's all sorts of different combinations of Azdel and Luan, and there are different thicknesses of Azdel. So the thickness of the Azdel really matters in terms of how that RV is constructed. But the thing you got to understand is the vast majority of RVs sold today are entry-level units. They're the lowest level, the cheapest units, and those are for the most part using Luan plywood because it's cheaper. The RV industry, Luan is very, very, very important to the RV industry. From the video I did on fall camping discounts, this just goes to show you that sometimes you can try to explain something in a lot of detail, but then you just use a word that you assume people know, but maybe they don't. So this question was, what is shoulder season? I talked a lot about shoulder season camping in this story, and I never explained what shoulder season was. So if you don't know, shoulder season generally refers to traveling or camping, but it applies to the entire travel industry just outside of the main tourist season. So if in a given area, the main tourism season is the summer when kids are off school, shoulder season is traveling in April, May, September, October, whereas the off season then is winter, but shoulder season, typically spring and fall for places that are very popular in the summer, and just depends on, where the place is, what shoulder season is, but that's what shoulder season means. It's the edge of the popular travel season. From the story that I did on Starlink ending pause mode, or ending free pause mode, I should say. They now have a $5 a month pause mode that gives you a very limited amount of data. The story was about the fact that they were removing the pause for most people unless you paid for it, and that perhaps Starlink would be then charging you to reactivate your account if you didn't do the $5 a month pause mode. And that was backed up by the fact that Starlink had put some terms of service language on their website, leading us to believe that they may be adding a charge for you to reinstate your Roam account in the future, which still may happen. But I published this story right after Starlink released this very confusing email to all customers. And a lot of people looked for some sort of feedback from Starlink about what was going on. And Starlink actually did change some of their language without saying anything really. A lot of people contacted customer service and let me know in the comments that they did. One of them being our friend Sherry from over at rvtravel.com. I talked to Starlink and everyone is getting it wrong, probably because Starlink's communication is confusing. maybe intentionally so. Anyway, the pause for $5 a month is optional for those who want emergency data. Otherwise, you can pause and start your service as always without charge. So just, I wanted to throw this in here because I just did this. I had ended our service, our roam service, the service that you can travel around with, uh, a few weeks ago because we weren't camping. And then I just turned it back on yesterday when I got to this campground. And I did it with no issues, but who knows? Things can change in the future. I don't know if they'll be adding a reinstatement charge or not. And then finally, I want to end with this comment from Sherry Weber, who has commented on so many of our videos and has been a follower for a long time. And she just asked a really interesting question that is off the cuff and not really about RVing at all. Hey, Jason, have you or Abby played the lotto yet? It's up to $1.7 billion. This is back when it was approaching $2 billion for the Powerball. What would you do with it? I have thought about this a decent amount. No, I don't play the lottery. I do crack up a bit because, you know, it gets up into like above $1 billion and people are like, well, I got to go play the lottery. I got to go. But what, $250 million wasn't good enough for you? Now it's 1 billion plus or getting close to 2 billion, and you think the odds are that much better in your favor. I think that's kind of funny. But even though I don't play the lotto, I often think about what I would do with lotto winnings, which makes no sense. And one of the things I have thought in terms of like RVing about this a little bit, I would really love, and this doesn't have to be a lotto thing, but an idea I have had for one day is to start a nonprofit that opens up a big, let's call it a state park feeling type place, a big, expansive outdoor place that has on it a camping and outdoor recreation museum, because as far as I'm aware, nothing like that exists in the country. So I would love to be able to house a museum for that sort of stuff. Outdoor sports, outdoor recreation, camping, and have a campground on site and have it be a working museum where you can go camping in an RV park. You can go tent camping in the woods. There's summer camps for kids. You're teaching kids outdoor and survival skills and all that sort of stuff. Maybe there's water recreation and canoeing things, but finding a way to use the outdoors to, you know, help get kids off the streets and stuff like that. But also making this sort of something that is, you know, maybe it's built with hundreds of millions of dollars from lotto winnings, but something that is funded and exists and continues due to other people using it. So, you know, most nonprofits rely on donations, but if we could build something like that, that relies on the income from the RV resort, for instance, and from the paying customers that use all the amenities, keeping it a nonprofit to be able to use that money then to help get more kids interested in learning about the outdoors, I think would be a really great thing. Another idea I've had was like, if I won $2 billion, let's see, I'd at least keep, you know, 500 million for myself if it's that much money. Although half of it's going to go to taxes. So say half goes to taxes, keep 250 million for myself, and the other 750 million. What I think would be really cool is to come up with an idea where you invest all of that money in one struggling downtown, one struggling small downtown. So you're investing in all sorts of local businesses and refreshing the all of the buildings, the landscape. You're buying up all the buildings, you're refreshing them, you're making apartments, you're making storefronts to lease out, and you're providing grants and funding to businesses to go into these areas and sort of restore a downtown. But with the idea being that you find a way to eventually make it profitable. Not that I mind with parting of hundreds of millions of dollars I didn't earn, but eventually you make it profitable in order to create a business model for other rich people to say, hey, you don't have to invest in Walmart. You don't have to invest in AI stock. Here's a way you can invest in people in a town, in a community, and turn a decent profit without it being the casino that is Wall Street. I think that could be a really interesting thing. Anyway, crazy thoughts I have. I love your comments. Thank you so much for commenting. I know I make fun of a few of them sometimes, and some of them are crazy, but I do appreciate each and every one of them. So continue to comment on our videos. Thanks so much for being here. If you like what we do, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.